Although Star Citizen remains in early alpha test with more work to be done, there's already a detailed gameplay loop for mining. As with many simulation type games, that can be a little intimidating for players looking to jump in. The aim of this video is to help talk you through what you need to know in order to start making money from mining, whether that's by hand, with a rover, or in a mining ship. I'm Forrester, and my channel is all about giving you useful or interesting content around simulation type games, including Star Citizen. As a disclaimer, whilst I have a lot of experience of mining in Star Citizen, I'm by no means the unquestioned Grandmaster of ore, so this guide will be more about getting you comfortable with what and how to mine. So it's a mining 101. If you're an experienced miner, I'd be interested to know your thoughts in the comments on whether there's anything else you'd suggest for new diggers. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. That helps you to be notified of future Star Citizen videos, such as ship reviews or location spotlights, and helps me to grow the audience. So, before diving into the meat of the guide, it's important to also cover off that Star Citizen is in iteration, with new patches coming in about 4 times a year, often changing up gameplay loops. As with other games that aren't yet released, there's also a lot of player speculation about how things will be in the future. This video will instead focus on how things are right now in Star Citizen to help you feel really comfortable with mining, so as things change, you may want to keep up to date with any updates as time goes on. So, starting with the theory, there are currently 2 broad types of minables in Star Citizen. The first we'll call ore, and is mineable by the Misk Prospector or the Argo Mole. This ore is then taken to a refinery and either sold directly or refined into tradable cargo. The icon for this looks a little like ore. The second type of mineable we'll call hand minables, although as well as by hand you can mine these with the rock mining rover. The mined minerals are sold directly to a cargo trader and not a refinery. The icon for this looks a little like a diamond. Before we shortly look at the mining interface, it's also helpful to explain that rocks across both types have different properties. They'll dictate things like the size of the rock and how much of different types of mineral are in it. But there are also 2 key properties to mention as part of our exploration of the theory, and those are instability and resistance. Instability is best explained as how unpredictable that rock is likely to be to mine. A very low instability means you're likely to see the rock behave in a much more predictable manner as you mine it. That can be helpful to avoid mining accidents and explosions. Resistance is best explained as how tough that rock is likely to be to mine. A higher resistance means you'll need more mining power to break down the rock, either by having more people mining it, a more powerful laser, or through use of consumables. First of all, you'll need to find some rocks to mine. Sometimes you'll see them just by overflying and see a UI icon. Remember, if you're hand mining or with a rock rover, you're looking for the little diamonds, and if you're in a prospector or mole, you're looking for the little ore icon. More commonly, you'll find most minables by entering scanning mode. You enter scanning mode by pressing the tab key. You'll then need to charge a ping by holding the right mouse button and releasing it. This will send out a scan, with the range depending on how long you hold down the ping charge for. Generally speaking, a short charge will be good for finding things close by, and a long charge will be better for finding things further away. Once your scanner locates something, you'll see a blue cube box on your UI. Simply fly to it to find the goodies within. You may need to keep pinging on the way in to home in on your target. Most of what you'll find will be rocks to mine, although it's worth mentioning that the scanner also works for other targets of interest, such as player ships. Once you get close enough, you'll be able to see the rock with a highlighted outline. Depending on your vehicle, you may need to enter into a mining mode in order to see what's actually in the rock. You can find minables pretty much anywhere you go in the Stanton system, although it's worth mentioning that the Aaron's Halo asteroid belt is a fantastic place to go mining, and there's a spotlight video available on the channel if you're looking for somewhere to mine. Speaking of the channel, if you've made it this far, hopefully you're finding this video useful or interesting, and you'll help out by pressing that like button to help other people find this video. So, now we've discussed how to find ore to mine, let's talk about what the user interface looks like for actually getting into the mining minigame. When entering mining mode by pressing the M key for mining, you'll be presented with something that looks like this. The interface will change a little depending on whether you're hand mining, in a rover or in a ship, but we'll chat through the broad strokes now so you know what you're looking at. Usually there'll be an indicator which shows how full your cargo bay is and what you've already mined. This can be helpful to let you know if it's worth breaking down the next rock or if it's time to go home. On the right side you'll see information about the rock you're currently pointed at. That includes the size, instability, resistance, as well as the makeup of likely loot within that rock. You'll often use this to prospect, for want of a better word, to decide which rocks you'll break up and harvest and which you'll simply move on from. Then in the centre you'll find the actual mining UI. On the left you have your laser intensity. That's what you control, which is how much power you're firing into the rock. Then on the right you have the charge level. The goal here is to keep it in the green section. In the orange part you'll lose progress until you build back up to the green, and in the red part you'll overcharge the rock, which will cause an explosion, the size of which depends just on how much red you're overcharged by. Explosions are bad. Although they may not destroy your ship, they'll scatter ore everywhere, which makes it very time consuming to harvest. Left click with your mouse to start the mining laser, and you can keep it in the same position on the rock. Often you'll find that getting as close as possible to the rock will give you the best power delivery. One of the best tips I can give to stay in the green is to feather your throttle. If, like me, you use the default keybound of mouse wheel to set your laser intensity, once you get at least halfway charged, keep it always moving up or down, depending on whether you need more or less power. You can expect that as your rock heats up, you'll need less and less power to keep it bubbling away. Once you've been keeping your rock in the green and that green bar is fully charged, it'll break up into smaller pieces. Those smaller pieces will either have a yellow outline, in which case you repeat the process we just discussed, albeit probably applying a little less power than before to avoid the red, but if it has a purple outline, that means it's ready to harvest. So, if you check that the ore inside is what you want to harvest, you can switch to extraction mode by pressing the right mouse button and then left click to bring that lovely ore home. But how do you know what you want to harvest? Different ores sell for different amounts, meaning some rocks are more valuable than others. There are different trains of thought here, with some preferring to optimize and only go for the most valuable rocks, some mining anything and everything, and others falling between. Ultimately, there's no right or wrong answer, but one general rule. Inert material is absolutely worthless. In fact, it's worse than worthless because it takes up valuable cargo space. So generally, you'll want to avoid harvesting too much inert ore. If you're hand mining, the most valuable material is hadonite. If you're mining with a ship, you'll want to be on the lookout for quantanium, bexalite, taranite, borace, laranite, and agricium. If all you harvest is the aforementioned minerals, you'll make good money from each run. A word to the wise though, Quantanium, whilst valuable, is also volatile, so you'll have less than 15 minutes to get back to base and start refining it before explosive things happen. You can choose to jettison the ore before it gets to that stage by holding Alt and J for jettison, but far better to just harvest the Quantanium last and then hot-tail it back for juicy profits. If you've been mining with a prospector or mole, you'll need to visit a refinery. You can either sell your raw ore to the refinery, or more commonly spend a little bit of in-game currency to refine it into ore, which you can later transport and sell. The 3 refinery locations in-game right now are Crew L1, Her L1, and Mike L1. Once at the station, you'll need to take the station elevator to the refinery deck. When you walk up to a refinery kiosk, you'll be presented with a screen like this. Starting with the top left, each station specialises in different minerals, giving a slight buff or debuff to processing depending on what you're looking to process. There's also refinery capacity, which you can't really control. It shows how many other people are currently using the refinery. In the current patch, expect to see a crazy high number here, that just seems to be normal. Then below that you have the material selection, and here you'll select your prospector or mole. As with cargo terminals, if it doesn't show up right away, keep clicking every few seconds until you see it on there. Once you select your ship, hit Setup Work Order, and then you'll be presented with a setup screen. Here you'll select what ore you want to refine, which usually will be all of it, so hit the little button next to each line for refine. You'll then need to select a refine method in the drop down above. There is a little text beneath when you select each method which gives you an indication as to what the trade-offs are. Generally, it's about finding a balance between speed, cost and yield being how much ore you'll get from the method. Personally, I tend to use the Dinix method, as I'm not in a rush to collect, and that gives me a fairly good yield for fairly cheap, but pick whatever works for you. Then hit Get Quote, it'll tell you how much you need to pay to start refining that load, and if you're happy with that, hit Confirm. Your timer will then start counting down and slowly refining your materials. You don't need to be logged in for the timer to continue, so you can do some mining at the weekend, refine it over days during the week, and then collect it the next weekend if you like. Once the refining is complete, you'll get a little notification, either when you log in or if you're online. You then travel back to the refinery with a cargo ship to pick up the shipment. You'll see it says Work Order Complete, then you select the cargo ship in the drop-down list and hit Collect. It loads up your refined ore onto your ship, just like regular cargo, which you can go sell at a cargo vendor. You can also choose to collect some of the ore early, whilst the work order is still processing. There's no real penalty for doing so, but equally no real advantage, so it's up to you. So if your mining journey wasn't complicated enough, for prospector or mole mining you can also buy mining consumables. You equip them into your ship in the Mobiglass and then activate them through use of the left Alt and 1 through 3 keys. They each do slightly different things, usually to do with making mining a little more stable or making the rock a little easier to crack. They can absolutely help you when you're mining, but equally you don't have to use them. In patch 3.13, you can also buy subcomponents for your mining lasers to further augment their mining ability. Just like consumables, they can help, but your mileage may vary. As with most things mining related, a great place to buy ships, equipment, clothing or consumables is at the refinery decks. So, putting it all together into a quick flight. I've sped up the footage here, that's because this video is long enough and the last thing you need is to hear me trying to make insightful comments in real time. In this instance, I've located these rocks through the cutlass, got out of the rock and out the back and to the rocks themselves. Here I'm charging the mining laser at 100% and just keeping an eye on the charge level on the right hand side. As that charge increases, I'll be ready to lower the throttle. The idea is to keep the charge in that green section until the green optimal is fully charged. And here I'm throttling down just to keep that green bar moving, but to keep the charge level within the green section. So the throttle's down to about half now, but you'll just need to see how it goes with your individual rock. And there we have it, the rock is broken up, so I'll go ahead and switch to extraction mode with a right click and then collect that glorious hadonite. Then back to the mining mode to start cracking the next rock. Interestingly, for this rock you'll see that the overcharge window is much more prevalent. Again, continuing just to charge that rock. And here, getting the warning because I've slightly gone too far into the overcharge. So I've just disabled the mining laser. You'll notice that while there's still power on it, that green bar continued to charge. But I was just letting the red overcharge bar reduce before piling back in to get back on that green bar. And then it's just a case of feathering that laser intensity with the mouse wheel as the rock breaks. Then as it breaks, right click to go into extraction mode, collect up that valuable hadonite, and that's about 20k. And that just about covers the basics of mining in Star Citizen. I hope you found this video guide useful. If so, please press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see future Star Citizen videos. I'd love to make more of these guides for different parts of the game, so if you have any questions, suggestions or feedback, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.